Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger. Up next on the GM, Lamar Jackson versus Baltimore Ravens history, part 3. Let's talk about it. So, as we get into video number 3, we can all assume that Lamar Jackson will certainly land on Mount Ravenmore. That is the Baltimore Ravens all-time top 4. But let's review who landed behind in spots 5 through 10. Number 10 was Marshall Yanda. Number 9 was Justin Tucker. Number 8 was Jamal Lewis. Number 7 was Chris McAllister. Number 6 was Terrell Suggs. And number 5 was Joe Flacco, Super Bowl champ and MVP of that Super Bowl. And so as we turn our attention to the top 4, the question really is for today is, where does Lamar Jackson land? Number 4, number 3, number 2, or number 1? Well, let's no longer delay in answering that question. Let's get right to it. Number 4 on the Baltimore Ravens all-time list is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a 6'2", 210-pound quarterback drafted out of Louisville. The Baltimore Ravens chose Lamar Jackson in the 2018 draft with pick 32 of the first round. Lamar Jackson came into the league highly scrutinized. There were some who called themselves experts that said Lamar Jackson should move to wide receiver, or that he would be a great slot or maybe a running back in order to highlight his athleticism, but they did not believe, did not think, did not analyze that he could play quarterback successfully in the NFL. But despite all of that, Lamar Jackson stood the test of time and has come out on this end 6 years later successful. Why does Lamar Jackson break into the Baltimore Ravens top 4? Well, number 1, he's born a Raven. Number 2, he has that 5+ year longevity requirement. Number 3, he has personal accomplishments. Number 4, he's a winner. And number 5, he has put his team in contention. But let's talk about some of those personal accomplishments that would legitimize him being number 4 versus somewhere else on the top 10 list. Well, Lamar Jackson is accomplished as a Baltimore Ravens. He has over 15,000 passing yards. He has 125 passing touchdowns. He has 29 rushing touchdowns. He has over 5,200 yards on the ground as a rusher. Right? And so when you look at that in 5.5 years of starting of his 6-year career, he's super accomplished. But let's not stop there. He's an All-Pro twice. He has multiple Pro Bowls, and he's a 2-time MVP and the youngest ever to win an MVP unanimously. And so when you look at those things, man, you have to take into consideration that Lamar Jackson is well accomplished, right? And part of the reason why I have him at number 4 and not higher is because if I rank him too high, he has nowhere else to go. Because in order to break into the top 2 and more specifically be number 1 on the list, there's a few more metrics, a few more things he must accomplish. See, so if you put him all the way at the top already, that means there's nowhere else he can go. And so I believe that Lamar Jackson has more growing to do. He has more spectacular to display. And I'm excited to watch him perform. And so Lamar Jackson, number 4 on the Baltimore Ravens all-time list. Number 3 on the Baltimore Ravens all-time list is Ed Reed. Ed Reed was a 5'11", 200-pound free safety drafted out of Miami. The Baltimore Ravens chose Ed Reed in the 2002 draft in the first round with pick 24. Ed Reed stepped into a big role on this Baltimore Ravens defense, playing in all 16 games as a rookie, playing on a defense that was expected to be great, only 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. Why does Ed Reed make this list? Well, Ed Reed makes this list and comes in at number 3 because Ed was never not great. Ed Reed is born a Raven. He has the longevity, playing in 11 seasons in a Baltimore Ravens uniform. He has the personal accomplishments. His contribution on the field contributes to winning, and his teams were in consistent contention. Let's look at some of the stats. Ed Reed in a Baltimore Ravens uniform was a 9-time Pro Bowler. 6 of those years, he was an All-Pro. Ed Reed was the 2004 Defensive Player of the Year. Ed Reed was a member of the 2012-2013 championship team. Ed Reed is the Baltimore Ravens leader in interceptions, collecting 50 interceptions in a Baltimore Ravens uniform. You're talking about big time performance. 2 of his 11 years as a Raven, he closed out a season with 9 interceptions. Ed Reed had elite range. He had the ability to cover ground. He had the ability to cover in man, and he was absolutely a ball hawk.
Get out. He ran it back from this far last week from the middle of the end zone. Oh, God. Dang it, man. Look out, he's got a seam. Ed Reed's going to break another one. Go in. Just set the record last week. Quincy Carter can get him. He sidesteps him, and a flag will bring it back. Wipes the touchdown off the board. Of course, the interception stands. It would have been 103 yards. Garcia. Ed Reed, interception.
Ed Reed, number 3 on the Baltimore Ravens all-time list. Number 2 on the Baltimore Ravens all-time list is Jonathan Ogden. Jonathan Ogden was a 6'8", 315 plus pound offensive tackle. Jonathan Ogden was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens in the 1996 inaugural draft with the 4th overall pick. Jonathan Ogden was excellent the entire 12 years he was a Baltimore Ravens. The reason why Jonathan Ogden makes this list, number 1, he was born a Raven. He was one of the original Ravens, if I can say that. He has the longevity, 12 years, as I mentioned, and he has elite level personal accomplishments. He could challenge for the best offensive tackle of all time. Let's talk about some of his statistics. Jonathan Ogden, in his 12-year career, all as a Ravens, was an 11-time Pro Bowler. 9 of those 11 years as a Pro Bowler, he was an All-Pro. And he was a member of that 2000-2001 championship team. See, when you think about the magnitude of Jonathan Ogden's numbers, his statistics, 9-time All-Pro in 12 years, 11-time Pro Bowler in 12 years, that's the elite of the elite of the elites at offensive tackle. There was nobody doing it better at left tackle in Jonathan Ogden's era. Ogden, number 2 on the Baltimore Ravens all-time list. All right, let's sum up the 3 players we talked about. Lamar Jackson makes the Baltimore Ravens all-time top 4 because of the level of productivity, success, and talent he's put on display. Lamar Jackson has been highly scrutinized, and for him to put on the type of performances we've seen in the Baltimore Ravens uniform over the 5.5 years as a starter is pretty remarkable. For people to doubt you season in, season out, game in, game out, for every big contest, people doubt if you will be able to pull off the win, and you continue to show up and show out in every game, every big contest. Yeah, we understand that Lamar Jackson does not have the playoff success as some other players. However, what we've seen from Lamar Jackson over the 5.5 years as a starter is a consistent ability to win. The 3rd highest winning percentage in NFL history is what Lamar Jackson possesses at this point in his young career, having to be the number 1 rusher for the Baltimore Ravens and be on point with passes, and never having a legitimate, experienced number 1 wide receiver. Yes, the Baltimore Ravens have selected first-round draft picks as wide receivers on 3 different occasions, but the truth of the matter is those guys were unproven in the league, and the Baltimore Ravens have yet to just go out and bring him a legit, proven, experienced wide receiver. And so he's had the level of success he's had with less talent than other competitors who have come into the league at the same position, of course, quarterback in his era. So that's why I put Lamar Jackson at number 4. I do have high expectations that Lamar Jackson will have a solid season in 2024. I do expect him to play at an MVP type level, although the schedule is heavyweight after heavyweight every single week. I do expect Lamar to show up and do what we've seen him to do. So I do expect him to continue to climb. It may take him a little bit to climb over Ed Reed. It certainly will take him a while to climb over Jonathan Ogden. And then it may take him to close out his career and get a full consideration to get into that number 1 spot. Let's go to Ed Reed. Ed Reed makes this list, and he's number 3 for me on the Baltimore Ravens all-time list, just based on pure impact and ability. When you talk about a safety who has 50 interceptions over 11 seasons, when you talk about a safety who has 9 Pro Bowls and 6 All-Pros in 11 seasons as a Raven, when you talk about a safety winning the Defensive Player of the Year award, that's like winning the MVP in the league for a defensive player, because I don't know if a defensive player will ever win the MVP again. You know, elite range and just elite athleticism, and not to mention his ability to return the football. Not to mention when he gets his hands on the ball, he turns into a returner. You know, there's countless times where we see Ed Reed pick the ball off and take it the distance. In fact, Ed Reed holds the record for the 2 longest interception returns in league history. That's the kind of player Ed Reed was, and based on all of that, him being a champion, Defensive Player of the Year, the Pro Bowls, the All-Pros, all of that makes him the Baltimore Ravens number 3, not to mention that he could very well be the best free safety to have ever done it thus far in the league. And then we'll go to Jonathan Ogden. Jonathan Ogden also could be the very best left tackle thus far to do it in the league. When you talk about a left tackle that has 11 Pro Bowls out of 12 seasons, when you talk about a guy who has 9 All-Pros out of 12 seasons, a champion, it doesn't get much better than that. Jonathan Ogden set a standard at offensive tackle during his era, and certainly for the Baltimore Ravens franchise. That's why he sits at the number 2 position. So listen, man, give me your ranking. Tell me what you guys think. Is Lamar too high, too low, or right where he needs to be? I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and we are out.